If you have been strong for too long, this is for you. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot touch. It is not the tiredness of a body that has run a marathon, and it is not the fatigue of a mind that has solved too many equations. It is heavier than that. It sits in the marrow of your bones. It is the exhaustion of a soul that has forgotten how to lay down its shield. Have you ever noticed that a bridge holding too much weight doesn't explode? It doesn't scream. It just quietly folds. There is no drama in the collapse, only a sudden inability to hold the tension 1 second longer. You might feel like that bridge right now. You are the person everyone comes to. You are the problem solver, the listener, the stabilizer, the one who says, "I'll handle it," before anyone else has even noticed there is a problem. You are the architect of everyone else's comfort. But deep down, in the quiet moments before sleep takes you, or in those few seconds when you wake up and stare at the ceiling, you feel it. A terrifying thought that whispers, "I am tired of being the strong one." But you don't say it. You get up, you drink your coffee, you put on the armor, and you do it all again. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's talk about why you are so tired, even when you are technically resting. Because what you are suffering from isn't physical fatigue. It is soul fatigue. It is the price of high-functioning hyperindependence. And here is the hard truth that nobody tells you. You weren't born strong. You became strong because you had no choice. Your childhood trained you for emergencies that no longer exist. Think back. A child should be reckless. A child should be messy. A child should ask for things without worrying if it burdens the parent. But maybe you weren't that child. Perhaps you learned, very early on, that the adults around you were fragile. Maybe they were emotionally volatile, exploding over small things like a dropped glass or a loud noise. Or maybe they were distant, cold, and unavailable. Or maybe they were just overwhelmed by the sheer weight of life, and you, with your sensitive heart, decided you would not add to their load. So, you became the good one, the low-maintenance one. You learned to read the temperature of a room the moment you walked into it. You became an expert in micro-expressions. You learned that silence is safer than noise. You learned that having needs is dangerous because it might cause rejection or conflict. A boy learns that crying makes his father angry, so he swallows the tears until his throat burns, and he smiles. A girl learns that her mother is sad, so she cleans the kitchen quietly at 7 years old, hoping it will make the sadness go away. This is where the seed was planted. You learned to be useful before you learned to feel safe. You learned that your worth is tied to your utility. You learned that you are only safe when you are providing something, fixing something, or saving someone. Now, fast forward 20, 30, or 40 years. You are an adult. You are capable. You are successful. You have built a life that looks perfect from the outside. But you are running an operating system that was designed for a scared child trying to survive in a chaotic home. Psychologists call this hypervigilance. Even when you are sitting on the couch watching a movie, you aren't really resting. Your brain is constantly scanning. You are tracking the mood of the person sitting next to you. You are thinking about the email you didn't send. You are anticipating a crisis that hasn't happened yet. You are mentally rehearsing conversations to ensure you don't say the wrong thing. You are like a soldier who has returned from war but hasn't taken off the boots. You are sleeping with one eye open, and that consumes an immense amount of energy. Your body is flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone, not because you are in danger, but because you don't know how to feel safe without a problem to solve. Stop for a moment. Take a breath. Just breathe for a second. I want you to really hear this. You are not busy because you have too much to do. You are busy because you are terrified of what you might feel if you stop. Silence is loud for people like you. When the noise stops, the memories come, the doubts come, the realization of how lonely you actually feel comes rushing in. So, you fill the silence with movement. You scroll through your phone. You clean the house. You take on another project. You help a friend who didn't ask for help. You function. Psychologists call this the flight response, but it's disguised as productivity. You are running away from yourself. Let's go deeper into this armor you wear. It's called hyperindependence. It looks like strength, but it feels like isolation. It's the belief that if I do it myself, I won't be disappointed. Or, if I don't ask for help, I won't owe anyone anything. Dependency feels like a threat to you. When someone offers to help you, your first instinct is to say, "No, I've got it." You might even feel irritated. Why? Because trusting someone else requires you to be vulnerable. It requires you to hand over control. And for you, control is safety. If you hold the steering wheel, the car won't crash. If you hold the world on your shoulders, the world won't break. But here is the heavy truth. The world will not break if you put it down. You will not disappear if you stop being useful. Think of a lighthouse. A lighthouse stands on the edge of the ocean. It endures the crashing waves, the salt, the wind, and the dark nights. It shines a light so that ships don't crash against the rocks. It is noble work. But the lighthouse does not run into the ocean to save the boats. It stands firm. It stays on its foundation. You have been running into the ocean. You have been trying to swim for everyone else, and you are drowning in the process. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? You attract people who need saving. Friends who are chaotic, partners who are emotionally immature, bosses who are disorganized. They flock to you like moths to a flame because they sense your stability. They sense that you will carry their load. And you do. You carry it because it makes you feel needed. It validates that old belief. I am valuable because I can fix this. But then, resentment starts to grow. It's a quiet, bitter weed in the garden of your mind. You start thinking, why does nobody ask me how I am doing? Why do I have to think of everything? Why am I the only adult in the room? This resentment is a signal. It is your soul banging on the door, begging you to set a boundary. But boundaries feel like betrayal to you. You feel guilty when you say no. You feel selfish when you choose your rest over someone else's crisis. Psychologists call this emotional overfunctioning. It is a way of managing your own anxiety by managing other people's lives. But it leaves you empty. Let me tell you something about guilt. Guilt is a feeling, not a fact. Just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you have done something wrong. In your case, guilt is simply the withdrawal symptom of breaking a people-pleasing addiction. When you stop handing out pieces of yourself to everyone who asks, it feels wrong. It feels foreign. But that discomfort is actually growth. You are tired because you are emotionally overcompensating. You are projecting an image of perfection because you are afraid that if people saw the mess inside, they would leave. You believe that you have to earn your place on this earth every single day. Imagine carrying a backpack. Every morning, you put rocks in it. One rock for your job, one rock for your partner's happiness, one rock for your parents' expectations, one rock for the fear of the future. By noon, your knees are buckling. But you see everyone else walking around smiling, and you think, what is wrong with me? Why is this so hard? Nothing is wrong with you. You are just carrying things that do not belong to you. Stay with me here. Let that sink in. There is a concept in psychology called attachment wounds. If you had to perform to receive love as a child, you develop an anxious attachment to your own achievements. You don't know who you are without the struggle. Peace feels boring. Stability feels suspicious. You are addicted to the cortisol of chaos because it's the only home you've ever known. This is why, when you finally get a vacation, you get sick. Have you noticed that? The moment you stop, your body crashes. The adrenaline that was holding you together evaporates, and the exhaustion takes over. It's your body saying, finally, we can collapse now. But we don't want to collapse. We want to heal. You have been the emergency contact for everyone but yourself. So, how do we begin to put the weight down? How do we retrain a brain that is wired for survival to learn how to live? It starts with permission. You are allowed to rest even when nothing is finished. You are allowed to stop performing. You are allowed to choose yourself. You don't have to change your entire life overnight. You don't have to quit your job or leave your family. You just have to start testing the waters of vulnerability. This is about micro-trust. Pick one small thing, one tiny responsibility that you usually hoard, and hand it to someone else. Ask your partner to decide what's for dinner. Let a colleague handle the email chain. And then, and this is the hard part, watch them do it wrong and say nothing. Let the plate fall. Let the mistake happen. And observe that the world keeps turning. This is how you rewire your nervous system. You have to prove to your brain that imperfection is not fatal. You have to teach yourself that you are not the only structure holding up the sky. Here is a practice for you. Allow yourself to disappoint someone. I know that sounds terrifying, but try it. Say no to a small request. Decline an invitation you don't want to go to. Practice receiving without apologizing. When someone pays you a compliment, don't deflect it. Don't say, "Oh, this old thing." Just say, "Thank you." When someone holds the door, walk through it. You must befriend your own needs. This sounds simple, but for you, it is revolutionary. You are so disconnected from your own body that you probably don't even know when you are hungry or thirsty or tired until you are shaking. You ignore the signals until the engine smokes. Start checking in. 3 times a day, stop. Put your hand on your chest. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Maybe the answer is water. Maybe it is 5 minutes of silence. Maybe it is to cry. Whatever it is, honor it. Treat yourself with the same gentle attention you give to everyone else. You have spent your life being a container for other people's emotions. You hold their anger, their sadness, their fear. But who holds yours? It is time to find safe spaces where you don't have to be the leader. Find a friend who doesn't need you to fix them. Find a hobby where you are a beginner, where you are allowed to be bad at it. Paint without trying to make art. Run without timing yourself. Read without trying to learn. Exist without trying to optimize. There is a tremendous grief in this process. We have to acknowledge that. When you start setting boundaries, some people will be angry. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will not like the new you. They will say you have changed. They will say you are being difficult. Let them. Their reaction is not your responsibility. You are breaking a contract you never signed. You are resigning from the job of general manager of the universe. Think about the Japanese art of kintsugi. When a bowl breaks, they don't throw it away. They mend the cracks with gold. The bowl becomes more beautiful, more valuable, because it has been broken. It has a history. It has character. You feel broken right now. You feel fractured by the weight of your own life. But you are not ruined. You are in the process of becoming gold. You didn't break. You adapted. And now, you are adapting again. The exhaustion you feel is actually a fierce intelligence. It is your body protecting you. It is your soul putting on the brakes because you are driving toward a cliff. Listen to the tiredness. It is not an enemy to be defeated with caffeine and willpower. It is a messenger. It is saying, come home to yourself. You have this idea that one day, when everything is done, when everyone is happy, when the bank account is full, then you will rest. Then you will be happy. But that day is a ghost. It will never come. The list never ends. The demands never stop. The only way to find peace is to steal it. You have to carve it out of the chaos with your own 2 hands. You have to claim your right to exist simply because you breathe, not because you produce. Let's go back to that child inside you. The one who learned to be quiet. The one who learned to be good. Imagine standing in front of them right now. Look at their tired eyes. Look at how hard they are trying to hold it all together. What would you say to them? Would you tell them to work harder? Would you tell them they aren't doing enough? No, you would wrap your arms around them. You would hold them tight. You would say, "You don't have to do this anymore. I am here. I am the adult now. I can handle the scary emotions. You can go play." You need to be that parent to yourself. You are doing the best you can, and that is enough. This journey out of exhaustion is not about doing more self-care. It's not about bubble baths or expensive retreats. It is about a fundamental shift in how you relate to your own existence. It is about moving from a state of survival to a state of being. It is realizing that your value is intrinsic. It is not something you rent. It is something you own. You are like a deep river. On the surface, the water might be choppy and fast, responding to the wind and the weather. But deep down, near the riverbed, the water is slow. It is dark. It is calm. That place exists inside you. You just have to dive deep enough to find it. You are allowed to be messy. You are allowed to be inconsistent. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to be unavailable. The people who truly love you, the ones who deserve to be in your life, will love you even when you are not useful. They will love you when you are sick, when you are broke, when you are crying, when you are boring. Anyone who only loves you when you are strong does not love you. They are using you. And it is okay to let those people go. As you shed these layers of expectation, you will feel lighter. The bridge will stop trembling. You will realize that the strength you built to survive is still there, but now you can choose when to use it. You don't have to wear the armor in your own living room. You have walked through fire to get here. You have carried mountains on your back. You have been the shelter for so many storms. But now, the storm is passing. The sky is clearing. It is time to put the heavy things down. It is time to look at your hands, not as tools for work, but as hands to be held. You didn't just survive the trauma, the pressure, and the noise. You grew through it. You developed a capacity for empathy, for resilience, for understanding that is rare and beautiful. But a superhero who never takes off the cape eventually becomes a villain to themselves. Take off the cape. Sit down. Look at the horizon. You are not failing. You are just exhausted. And healing takes as long as it takes. You have carried enough. It's your turn to rest. You are not alive to be useful. You are alive to be human.